them are called the iliopsoas. Outer hip muscles of the pelvic girdle are the gluteal muscles, so the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and the gluteus minimus, which now is hidden. The tensor of fascia lata, piriformis, obturator internus, and with this muscle, the superior gemellus and inferior gemellus, and quadratus femoris, which now is removed. Iliopsoas muscle has these three parts have a different attachment. So the psoas major muscle, the sides of the T12, through the L1 to the L3 vertebrae, and the intervertebral discs, which are located between them, and also attached to the transverse processes of the orbital vertebrae. Psoas minor muscle, because it's a much smaller muscle, it has a small belly, so attached only to the T12 and L1 and the intervertebral disc, which is located between these two vertebrae. Then the iliacus, which fills the iliac fossa, so it's also attached to the iliac crest, ala of sacrum, and the anterior-sacroiliac ligaments. But also look, we can see that it's attached to the anterior superior iliac spine. Why I need to emphasize it, that the iliacus is attached also to the anterior superior iliac spine, because a lot of structures are attached to this anterior superior iliac spine. You know the inguinal ligament, but we will also talk about the rectus femoris muscle, or the fascia lata, or the tensor fasciae lati. So a lot of structures are attached to the anterior superior iliac spine, so it's very good for the question. The distal attachments of the okay, so the psoas major muscle and the iliacus muscle are attached to the lesser trochanter, and this is the most important. Yes, to remember that the psoas major and the iliacus are attached because look, they join together, the psoas major and the iliacus, they join together, these fibers join, and they are attached to the lesser trochanter. The psoas minor muscle is attached to the pectineal line and to the iliopectineal eminence via the iliopectineal arch. So iliopsoas muscle is innervated, but in general we can say that lumbar plexus innervates this muscle, so iliopsoas muscle. Why? Because the lumbar plexus muscle is connected with this muscle, so it's very characteristic. For the sacral plexus, such muscle will be the piriformis muscle, which is connected with the sacral plexus. With the lumbar plexus, iliopsoas is connected with it. So the branches from the lumbar plexus supply this parts of this muscle. Look, the psoas major, the ventral rami of the lumbar nerves, so the L1, L2, and L3, psoas major, a minor ventral rami of lumbar nerves, L1, L2, and the iliacus, L2, L3. In general, we can say that they are branches from the lumbar plexus, and iliacus, we can emphasize that the branches are from the femoral nerve, which is formed from the lumbar plexus. Okay, main action of the iliopsoas muscle is that it's a chief flexor of the thigh. So it's a muscle, very important muscle for runners. Yes, so because we can elevate high our lower limb, yes, and because it acts as psoas major, which is long muscle, and the iliacus, which fills the iliac fossa, so it has a strength, yes, so we can run, yes, and we can elevate high our lower limb. Because the psoas major is attached to the lumbar vertebrae and the T12 also, so it flexes the trunk. It's active during standing by preventing hypertension of the hip joint. And we need to remember that the psoas minor, which is a small muscle, it has a small belly, yes, but is attached to the iliopectineal line through the iliopectineal eminence through the fascia. Maybe I will return to it. So the psoas minor, which is attached to the iliopectineal eminence via the iliopectineal arch, yes, the action is that it pulls this iliopectineal arch, and the lacuna musculorum, so the place through it passes the iliopsoas major muscle. So this is the space, yes, through it under the ilioinguinal ligament passes the iliopsoas with the femoral nerve is bigger, yes, so the femoral nerve wouldn't be pressed, yes, by the iliopsoas muscle. And now let's look into the outer muscles of the outer muscles. So there are gluteal muscles, the three large glutei muscles, the maximus, medius, and the minimus. They are mainly extensors and abductors of the thigh. So let's look to them. The gluteus maximus is the most superficial gluteal muscle. Is the largest, heaviest, and the most coarsely fibered muscle. It covers the other gluteal muscles, so the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus, except the posterior third of the gluteus medius. We can see the attachment of the gluteus medius. Here is a gluteus maximus, which covers other parts of a muscle. It forms a bed over the ischial tuberosity. So here we can see this number 1. So this is the attachment of the gluteus maximus. It passes from the thoracolumbar fascia, from the lateral surface of the sacrum, of the coccyx, from the sacrotuberous ligament and sacrospinous. So it's the big muscle. The gluteus maximus, the ischial tuberosity can be felt on the deep palpation through the gluteus maximus muscle, just superior to the medial part of the gluteal fold. So when the thigh is flexed, the inferior border moves superiorly and leaves the ischial tuberosity subcutaneously. So now you don't sit on the gluteus maximus because you could press this muscle, yes, and it could lead to the necrosis of the muscle, yes. So it moves superiorly, and now you are sitting on the ischial tuberosities. With the fatty fibrous tissue and the ischial bursa that lies between the ischial tuberosity and the skin. So one more, let's look into the gluteus maximus. So from the hilum posterior to the posterogluteal line, the dorsal surface of sacrum and coccyx, so the lateral borders, sacrotuberous ligament, but also some fibers from the sacrospinals. And the distal attachment is located in the iliotibial tract, and the second one is in the gluteal tuberosity of the femur. So two attachments, the distal attachment. This iliotibial tract, which ends on the lateral condyle of tibia. I will tell you next slide. Gluteus maximus is innervated by the inferior gluteal nerve from the sacral plexus. So now we will talk about the branches from the sacral plexus. So now the inferior gluteal nerve from the L5, S1 and S2. The main action of the gluteus maximus is the extension of the thigh, and also it has the lateral rotation of the thigh, acts during walking upstairs and running, and assists in making the knee stable by iliotibial tract. The next muscle is a tensor of fascia lata, number 4. So the proximal attachment, look, this is the anterior superior iliac spine and the anterior part of the iliac crest. The distal attachment is in the iliotibial tract. It's innervated by the superior gluteal nerve, so disappeared, yes, the S1, so L4, L5, and S1 should be. The main action of the tensor of the fascia lata, it abducts and medially rotates the thigh, but look, the most important is that it makes a flexion of the hip joint. So the flexion in the hip joint. And because the attachment, the distal attachment is in the iliotibial tract, so it helps to keep knee extended. So steady strength on the thigh. But the main action, remember, because this muscle is anteriorly to the axis of the hip joint, so it flexes and flexes a hip joint. So now let's look into the iliotibial tract. It's a lateral part of the fascia lata, is thickened and strengthened by the additional longitudinal fibers of the tensor fascia lata and the gluteus maximus. In some books also some authors say that gluteus medius also takes part in forming forming the iliotibial tract. It extends from the iliac tubercle to the lateral condyle of the tibia. The iliotibial tract is a part, we can say, of the fascia lata, but it's thickened. Yes, it's thickened because of such fibers, yes, which form this iliotibial tract. gluteus muscles are the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus. They are fan-shaped and their fibers pass in the same direction. They have the same actions, the nerve and arterial supply. So if you need to see the gluteus minimus, you need to remove the gluteus medius. The gluteus minimus and most of the gluteus medius lie deep to the gluteus maximus. So if we need to see all muscle, yes, the gluteus medius, we need to remove the gluteus maximus because only 1/3 will be visible posterior superior. The gluteus medius and minimus are innervated by the superior-gluteal nerve. So the same like the tensor fascia lata. So L4, L5, L and S1. And look into your books, into the MUR, because there is some mistake. It's very important because very often I like to ask about this muscle, about the fibers which form this nerve. There is some mistake. We need to add L4, L5 and S1. Remember. So, gluteus medius, the proximal attachment is located on the external surface of ilium between the anterior and posterior gluteal line. The distal attachment is located on the lateral surface of the greater trochanter. And the gluteus minimus, so also on the external surface of ilium, and also on the greater trochanter. So in general, we can say that the gluteus medius and minimus are attached, the distal attachment is on the greater trochanter. Look, the iliopsoas is the lesser trochanter. And also, please look that the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus are covered by the gluteus maximus. Only the superior part is visible. Gluteus medius and minimus, they abduct the thigh and rotate it medially, play the essential role during the locomotion and are largely responsible for preventing sagging on the unsupported side of the pelvis during walking. They keep the pelvis level, enables the non-wavering foot to clear the ground as it's brought forward during walking. I will explain it when we have some damage of the superior gluteal nerve or the fracture of the greater trochanter. So let's see it. I need to emphasize that gluteus medius and minimus are very important muscle during the nice movement as a dancing. Yes, without action, without with a damage of the superior gluteal nerve, we can't dance. So, but the most important is that they are abductors of the thigh. So, firstly, we need to think that when the weight is on the both feet, the pelvis is evenly supported and does not sag. And it's written, but I will try to explain in my own words, yes, because I think that you will better explain, understand it, yes. So when we need to walk, yes, we put one leg, yes, on the ground, yes, and next we elevate it, yes, and It's a normal position, yes, of the both of hip joints. The pelvis is in the same line. But when we have a weak hip abductors, so the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, yes, and it happens, for example, where will be damaged the superior gluteal nerve, or will be the fracture of the greater trochanter of femur. So the pelvis sags on the side where muscles are not damaged, yes, so the nerve or the fracture is not present. So on the opposite side, yes, on the opposite side. And the sign is called the positive Trendelenburg sign. Positive Trendelenburg sign. It means that the pelvis falls on the side of the raised limb. Yes? When we need to go, when we need to make a step, yes, the pelvis sags on this side. Yes. So now let's look what happens. Yes. So it's maybe opposite leg now. Yes. So because now we can see the right side. Yes, but I think this is the better picture. So look, there are the gluteus medius and minimus. Yes, and we need to go. Yes, we need to make a step. Yes, and the pelvis sags. Yes. On such unsupported leg, yes, because we are making a step. And we need to catch some balance, yes, because our pelvis sags, yes. So, look, the trunk goes to the side where we have damage this gluteus medius and minimus, where can't act, yes? And this gait is called a duck's gait. Yes? In the clinical language, yes, we can use it, yes, it's a gait of a duck. Because we need to catch some balance, yes, the pelvis sags, yes, on this unsupported leg, and because we need to go, yes, so our body, yes, goes to this side where we have this damaged muscles, yes, muscles or nerve or fracture of the greater trochanter. So this is the Trendelenburg sign, where the pelvis sags. And here, it's a gait of the duck. The next muscle, it's a piriformis muscle. It's a pear-shaped muscle. Proximal attachment is located on the anterior surface of sacrum and the sacrotuberous ligament. So look, because it's located in the pelvic cavity and the fibers are around the anterior sacral foramina, so we can say that it's connected, yes, with the sacral plexus, yes, because through the sacral foramina pass the anterior rami, yes, of the sacral spinal nerves. The piriformis muscle leaves the pelvis through the greater sciatic foramen and attaches to the superior border of the greater trochanter of femur. So look, the next muscle which is attached to the greater trochanter, yes, the piriformis muscle. The piriformis muscle is innervated by the branches of the ventral rami of S1 and S2, so of the rami from the sacral plexus. The next outer muscles are the obturator internus and gemelli. Obturator internus and the superior and inferior gemelli form the tricipital, the free-headed muscle, which is called the triceps cocci. Obturator internus and gemelli, they occupy the interval between the piriformis and the quadratus femoris. The tricipital tendon of this muscle lies horizontally in the buttock and finishes of the greater trochanter of femur, but especially the trochanteric fossa. So, let's look. One more time, I wanted to present you this picture because we can see the fibers of the piriformis and the obturator internus. Look, the fibers of the piriformis pass through the greater sciatic foramen, yes, and next the fibers go to the greater trochanter. And now let's look to the obturator internus. It starts from the obturator membrane, from the pelvic surface of the obturator membrane, and the bones which surround this obturator membrane, and it leaves the pelvis through the lesser sciatic foramen and becomes the tendinous, and it's attached to the medial surface of the greater trochanter, but especially, I told you that to the trochanteric fossa. Obturator internus is innervated together with the superior gemellus through the L5, S1 and S2. Superior and inferior gemelli are assist to the obturator internus. So if you find a tendon of the obturator internus, you very easy will find superior gemellus and inferior gemellus. The superior gemellus arises from the ischial spine, and inferior gemellus arises from the ischial tuberosity. They run to the medial surface of the greater trochanter, so into the trochanteric fossa of the femur. So these three muscles, the superior, inferior gemellus, and the obturator internus, the triceps cocci, they laterally rotate extended thigh and abduct flexed thigh. They also steady femoral head in the acetabulum. Quadratus femoris muscle is a short, flat, quadrangular muscle which is located inferior to the obturator internus and the gemelli. Runs from the lateral border of the ischial tuberosity to the intertrochanteric crest of femur. So look to the ischial tuberosity. We have heard about the inferior gemellus. Now we are talking about the quadratus femoris, but there will be muscles which are attached also to the ischial tuberosity, like a semitendinosus, semimembranosus, adductor magnus, so the biceps femoris. So it's also a good question. So it runs from this ischial tuberosity to the intertrochanteric crest of femur. Together with the inferior gemellus, is innervated by the nerve to the quadratus femoris. So from the L5 and S1. So again, the sacral plexus. So if you forgot branches, yes, from the sacral or lumbar plexus, yes. It's good to remember from which plexus these fibers pass, yes, because it could be for the 0-25 points, yes. The main action of the quadratus femoris is that it laterally rotates and steadies the femoral head in the acetabulum. So the same like the previous muscles. And the obturator externus. About this muscle we can talk with the adductor muscles of thigh, because this is the adductor. It lies deep in the thigh. It's very difficult to see in our specimens because it should be damaged, yes, the lower limb, to see this obturator externus. We need to remove all of adductors and the iliopsoas to see this obturator externus. Is attached externally from the obturator foramen and obturator membrane. But externally, yes, obturator internus, inside, yes, in the pelvic cavity, yes, this muscle outside. The tendon passes deep to the quadratus femoris on the way to its attachments to the trochanteric fossa of the femur. So the next trochanteric fossa, yes, with the gemellus theo, infio, obturator internus, and now the obturator externus. With other short muscles around the hip joint, stabilize the head of the femur in the acetabulum. It's also a lateral rotator of the thigh, but it's the adductor. Now I gave you examples of the muscles which make a flexion. About some of them we will talk with the next, yes. So now we are talking in general, yes, but we will emphasize it, we will repeat it with the next. So the main muscles which produce a flexion of the hip joint. So this is the iliopsoas, yes, the strongest flexor. And the rectus femoris, which belongs to the quadriceps femoris, we will talk about it, the sartorius. And today we talk about the tensor fascia lata, and pectineus adductors and gracilis we will talk with the next. So today we need to remember about the iliopsoas and the tensor fascia lata. Extensors. So about this hamstrings muscle we will talk with the next, semitendinosus and membranosus and the long head. And also about the adductor magnus, which belongs to the adductors of thigh. But today we are talking about the gluteus maximus. So this is the strongest extensor of the hip joint. And the abductors. So abductors, the gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and the tensor of fascia lata. And the adductors. Most of them belong to the adductors of thigh, so we will talk about it. But today we are talking about the obturator externus. Obturator externus is also, we also talk about this muscle with the adductors because it's innervated, because it's innervated by the obturator nerve. The medial rotators are the gluteus medius and minimus, the anterior parts of them, and the tensor of fascia lata, so the medial rotators. And the lateral rotators are the obturator externus and internus, gemelli, so superior and inferior, piriformis, quadratus femoris, and the gluteus maximus. to the structures which are located in the pelvic cavity. We can see it, yes, thanks to the ligaments and the notches. So, the greater sciatic foramen is formed by the greater sciatic notch and the sacrospinous ligament. The lesser sciatic foramen is formed by the lesser sciatic notch and the ligaments, the sacrotuberous and superiorly sacrospinous. So, greater sciatic notch, and the inferiorly the sacrospinous, and the lesser sciatic foramen, lesser sciatic notch, and the ligament superiorly, the sacrospinous, and posteriorly the sacrotuberous. They form the sciatic foramina. Through the greater sciatic foramen passes the piriformis muscle. The piriformis muscle which leaves the pelvis through the median part of the greater sciatic foramen. And I add it because in our Polish books it's easier to ask about the spaces which are located above and below the foramina, above and below this muscle. So it's in the Latin language. We can transform it into the English, yes, because in this greater sciatic foramen, yes, and above the piriformis muscle, we have the superior space, yes, which is called in the Polish books with the Latin language the foramen suprapiriforme. Inferiorly to it, so to the piriformis muscle, it's a foramen infrapiriforme. Why we are talking about it? There are the passageway for the structures which enter or leave a pelvis, yes? So, through this greater passes the piriformis muscle. But now, in the foramen suprapiriforme, so above the piriformis muscle, yes, pass the superior gluteal artery, superior gluteal nerve, and with the artery should be the vein, and I hope today you will see that with the artery on the both sides we can find the two superior gluteal veins, and of course with these vessels also the lymphatic vessels. Below the piriformis muscle, where is present the infrapiriforme foramen, yes, we have more structures, yes. The main content in this infrapiriforme foramen is the sciatic nerve. So, if you find a question about this space below the piriformis muscle, yes, in the greater sciatic foramen, yes, the most important is to say that there is present a sciatic nerve. And also, on the medial side of the sciatic foramen is present the posterior cutaneous nerve of thigh. And more medially to such structures, to these nerves, pass the internal pudendal vessels and pudendal nerve. And today you will see it, yes, because you couldn't see it with the abdominal cavity, but today you will see that these structures, the internal pudendal vessels, so the artery and vein, and the pudendal nerve from the sacral plexus, they pass through from the greater sciatic foramen, so from the infrapiriforme, foramen infrapiriforme, yes, and next look, they pass to the lesser sciatic foramen, and next, this structure pass to the pudendal canal. It was on the lateral wall of the ischioanal, ischio-rectal fossa. I hope you remember from the abdominal cavity. And also through this space inferior to the piriformis muscle passes the inferior-gluteal nerve. This inferior-gluteal nerve will supply the gluteus maximus. And of course the inferior-gluteal vessels with arteries, veins, and the lymphatic vessels. So, lesser sciatic foramen, one more time, let's repeat. Through it, yes, pass the internal pudendal vessels with the pudendal nerve and also the tendon of the obturator internus. Now let's talk about the lumbar plexus. It's located in the posterior part of the psoas major, so it's connected with the psoas major muscle, anterior to the lumbar transverse processes. This is the nerve network, is composed of the ventral rami of L1 through L4 nerves. But in some authors think that also the T12, yes, so the sub-branch from the subcostal nerve, T12, yes, also gives a source for the lumbar plexus. All these rami also receive a gray rami communicants from the sympathetic trunks. The largest branches from the femoral nerve are the femoral nerve, from the lumbar plexus, of course, the femoral nerve and the obturator nerve. Also, we need to emphasize that the lumbar plexus is connected with the sacral plexus by the lumbosacral trunk. You will see it with on our specimens. So this lumbosacral plexus trunk, it descends into the pelvis to participate in the formation of the sacral plexus. So remember, the lumbosacral trunk is the connection between the lumbar plexus and between the sacral plexus. So now we understand why, for example, the superior gluteal nerve contains branches from L4. Yes? Why? Yes, because in general we are thinking that L4 belongs to the lumbar plexus. But we need to remember that some fibers, yes, from this L4, the spinal nerve, also gives a branch to the sacral plexus, and from it is formed the superior gluteal nerve. Other branches which pass from the lumbar plexus is the ilo-hypogastric and ilo-inguinal nerves. They pass inferolaterally anterior to the quadratus lumborum. So they pass parallel, so together. Also, to the lumbar plexus belongs the genitofemoral nerve. I hope you remember it perfect because it passes posteriorly to the ureter. It's divided into the femoral and genital branches, and this femoral branch passes on the anterior surface of the femoral artery. So it passes through the femoral sheath, yes, on the anterior surface of the femoral artery. And the lateral cutaneous, lateral femoral cutaneous nerve or lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh. Yes, both names are correct. It runs inferolaterally on the iliacus and enters the thigh posterior to the inguinal ligament, and medially to the anterior superior iliac spine, and supplies the lateral surface of the thigh. About the genitofemoral nerve, we can also say that it pierces the psoas major muscle. So if you try to find this nerve, yes, it's good to find the psoas major, yes, and the fibers which pierce the anterior surface of the psoas major muscle. And you will be sure that this is the genitofemoral nerve. Femoral nerve is the largest branch of the lumbar plexus, and look that it passes, it emerges on the lateral border of the psoas major muscle. We have the four muscles which are visible on the lateral surface of the psoas major muscle. It also will be important when you will try to find the nerves. So look, the ilo-hypogastric, ilo-inguinal, lateral cutaneous femoral nerve, and the femoral nerve, yes, four of them, they emerge on the lateral border of the psoas major muscle. Genitofemoral pierces, so on the anterior surface. The obturator will be visible on the medial surface of the psoas major muscle. But now let's return to the femoral nerve. So femoral nerve descends through the pelvis to the midpoint of the inguinal ligament. It passes deep to the inguinal ligament and enters the femoral triangle, laterally to the femoral vessels. It supplies five muscles which belong the iliacus and the muscles on the anterior compartment of thigh. So the femoral nerve sends also articular branches to the hip joint and the knee joint, and provides several cutaneous branches to the anteromedial side of thigh. And what is important, the saphenous nerve. The saphenous nerve is the terminal cutaneous branch of the femoral nerve. Saphenous nerve accompanies the femoral artery and vein through the adductor canal. It passes between the sartorius, so this is the muscle which belongs to the anterior compartment of thigh, and the gracilis, which belongs to the adductors, and traverse next the adductor hiatus at the distal end of the canal. It runs antero-inferiorly to supply the skin and fascia on the anteromedial aspect of the knee, leg and foot. So let's return, look. So this blue color, yes, this part of thigh is supplied by the cutaneous branches from the femoral nerve. And this part, this medial side of knee, medial side of leg and medial side of foot is supplied by the branch from the femoral nerve, which is called the saphenous nerve. The second branch from the lumbar plexus is the obturator nerve. It arises from the lumbar plexus in the abdomen and enters the lesser pelvis. Runs in the extraperitoneal fat along the lateral wall of the pelvis to the obturator canal. It divides into the anterior and posterior parts that leave the pelvis through this canal and supply the medial adductors. So we will talk with these muscles with the next. But today, because we are talking about the lumbar plexus, so we need to say about this nerve. Obturator levator canal. It's located in the pelvic cavity and is bounded by the obturator groove and the opening in the obturator membrane. The obturator nerve, which passes from the lumbar plexus, and the vessels pass from the pelvic cavity into the thigh. Here we can see this obturator canal. Yes, this is the obturator membrane. The next plexus is a sacral plexus. It's located on the posterolateral wall of the lesser pelvis. It's related to the anterior surface of the piriformis muscle. So look, here you can see the three muscles. Look, the piriformis, levator ani, and the obturator internus. So now let's look to the sacral plexus, the piriformis muscle, and the network of the sacral plexus is composed of the ventral rami of L5, but also we need to remember about the L4, yes, through S4 nerves. So connection between the lumbar and sacral plexuses, it's a lumbosacral trunk. So lumbosacral trunk, it connects the lumbar plexus with the sacral plexus. In some anatomists, they coccygeal plexus, they add to the sacral plexus. So the anterior rami, which form the coccygeal plexus, sometimes in some anatomies, some authors is add to the sacral plexus. But remember that the sacral plexus, also the L4, look, the L4 also forms the sacral plexus. And this coccygeal plexus, the small network of nerve fibers, is formed by the anterior rami of S4, S5, and the coccygeal nerve. The coccygeal plexus sends some fibers to the levator ani, the ischio-coccygeal nerves to the ischio-coccygeus muscle. So generally it's a small network. But when we are thinking about the sacral plexus, you need to remember about these nerves, the superior-gluteal nerve, inferior-gluteal nerve, the biggest sciatic nerve, posterior-femoral cutaneous nerve, and the pudendal nerve, about which we talk with the abdomen. Sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the body. It passes through the greater sciatic foramen inferior to the piriformis muscle to enter the gluteal region. It descends along the posterior aspect of the thigh and supplies the flexors of the knee in thigh and all muscles in the leg and foot. So, look, it's very important to know that it's the biggest nerve from the sacral plexus, and it supplies a lot of muscles in the lower limb, so we can't damage it. Yes, very often we need to put some injection, intramuscular injection, and every time we need to remember that we have only one safe area where we can put the intramuscular injection, because someone can ask you, oh, please give me some injection, yes, intramuscular injection, yes, you are a student of medicine, yes, so all of people, you think that you know everything, yes, So sometimes some neighbor, yes, some aunt can ask you about it. So remember, the buttock we need to divide into the 4 quadrants. And the safe area for making the intramuscular injection is this superior-posterior quadrant. Here, in the superior-posterior quadrant, is present the gluteus medius muscle. Someone can say that, wow, sciatic nerve is covered with the big muscle, the gluteus maximus, yes? So how the needle, yes, can go through this muscle, yes, and damage the sciatic nerve? Now, we need to think that when we put the intramuscular injection, sometimes we can make some hematoma, and next can it lead to abscess, to the necrosis. So, and this the abscess, yes, this inflammation, yes, can damage the sciatic nerve. So we are afraid about the circumstances which can happen, yes, after the intramuscular injection. So remember about it. The next, pudendal nerve, you know a lot about it. So from the S2, S3 and S4, this is the main nerve of the perineum and chief sensory nerve of the external genitalia. So today you will see it passes from the greater sciatic foramen through the lesser sciatic foramen and next through the pudendal canal, which is located on the lateral wall of the ischioanal, ischiorectal fossa. Superior-gluteal nerve L4 and S1 leaves the pelvis through the greater sciatic foramen superiorly to the piriformis and supply the gluteus medius, minimus and tensor fascia lata. Inferior-gluteal nerve L5-S2 leaves the pelvis through the greater sciatic foramen inferior to the piriformis, medially to the sciatic nerve, and supplies the gluteus maximus, so this biggest muscle of the buttock. And the posterior femoral cutaneous nerve, which also emerges on the medial surface of the sciatic nerve, leaves the pelvis through the greater sciatic foramen inferior to the piriformis muscle, supplies the skin of the buttock at the uppermost medial of the posterior surface of thigh. But the buttock is supplied only in the 1/3 through the inferior cluneal nerves. The superior part of buttock and the middle part will be supplied by the dorsal branches from the spinal nerves, so the superior and middle cluneal nerves. The inferior cluneal nerves are the branches from the posterior femoral cutaneous nerve, and they supply the 1/3 inferior of the buttock. Femoral sheath, it's a funnel-shaped fascial tube. It extends 3 to 4 centimeters inferior to the inguinal ligament and encloses proximal parts of the femoral vessels and the femoral canal. Is formed by the inferior prolongation of the transversalis and iliopsoas fascia from the abdomen. Remember that the femoral sheath doesn't enclose the femoral nerve because look, it passes through the muscular space. So femoral nerve passes with the iliopsoas muscle, I explained it, yes, that the psoas minor, yes, can pull, yes, this iliopectineal fascia, yes, and this compartment, this muscular compartment, through it passes the femoral nerve. It enlarges, yes, so the femoral nerve wouldn't be pressed. Femoral sheath allows the femoral artery and vein to glide deep to the inguinal ligament during movements of the hip joint. Femoral sheath is divided into the three compartments by the vertical septa, which are derived from the extraperitoneal connective tissue of the abdomen that extends along the vessels. So let's look into these three compartments. So the lateral compartment is formed by the femoral artery, and through this on the anterior surface of the femoral artery passes the femoral branch of the genitofemoral nerve. And the intermediate compartment is formed by the femoral vein, and the medial compartment is formed by the femoral canal. In this canal, sometimes we can find the deep inguinal lymph node, which is called the Rosenmiller lymph node. Let's return one more time. So please remember, this is the femoral sheath. Superiorly, it's an inguinal ligament. Inferiorly, it's a pelvis, yes, with the pubic bone. Laterally, the femoral sheath is composed by the iliopectineal arch, and medially it's a lacunar ligament. Lacunar ligament, it's a part of the inguinal ligament. And remember about these three compartments: lateral, middle, intermediate, and the medial. Common iliac artery, it begins at the aortic bifurcation at the level of the L4, run inferolaterally, runs, yes, if we are thinking about the one, yes, runs inferolaterally, following the medial border of the psoas major muscle to the pelvic rim. Common iliac artery divides into the internal and external iliac arteries. Common iliac artery gives some small branches to the lymph nodes, to the wall of the abdominal cavity. External iliac artery, it follows the iliopsoas muscle. It gives rise to the, and we know this artery, the inferior epigastric artery. Look, now the anterolateral wall of the abdomen is removed, yes, is put inferiorly, and here we can see this inferior epigastric artery, and the next branch is a deep circumflex iliac artery. Today, both of them are present. External iliac artery finishes at the level of the inguinal ligament, which passes midway between the anterior superior iliac spine and the pubic symphysis. The continuation of the external iliac artery is called the femoral artery. Inferior epigastric artery, which is a branch from the external iliac, runs superiorly and enters the rectus sheath. And and runs deep to the rectus abdominis, we remember, is joined with the superior epigastric artery, supplies the rectus abdominis muscle and the medial part of the anterolateral abdominal wall. Deep circumflex iliac artery runs on the deep aspect of the anterior abdominal wall parallel to inguinal ligament. Supplies iliacus muscle and inferior part of the anterolateral abdominal wall. Internal iliac artery, which is a branch from the common iliac artery, begins anterior to the sacroiliac joint at the bifurcation of the common iliac artery and descends posteriorly to the greater sciatic foramen. It gives a lot of branches to the buttock, medial thigh regions, the perineum and organs, so the viscera of pelvis. Internal iliac artery divides into the anterior and posterior divisions. The branch of the anterior division, the branches, yes, of the anterior division are mainly visceral, so they pass to the organs of the pelvic cavity. They supply the bladder, the urinary bladder, the rectum, the reproductive organs. Anterior division has also two parietal branches, so they pass to the buttock and the thigh. And the posterior division, it typically gives rise to the parietal arteries. So there's parietal branches of so the umbilical artery and the superior gluteal artery. So let's look to the anterior division of the internal iliac artery. Most of them we remember, yes, from the pelvic cavity, yes, so the umbilical artery, which you know perfect, yes, obturator artery. And look that sometimes in some pictures you will see that the umbilical artery is not the first branch, but it passes as a second branch. But in most of book there is written that the umbilical artery is the first branch from the internal iliac artery. But sometimes in the picture it happens that the umbilical artery is the second one. So the umbilical artery, the obturator artery, which arises close to the umbilical artery and runs on the obturator fascia and next runs to the obturator canal. These branches, yes, so they supply the organs, so the uterine artery, middle rectal artery, vaginal, inferior vesical artery, internal pudendal artery. Yes. And here we need the inferior gluteal artery. So this is the terminal branch, the inferior gluteal artery is a terminal branch of the internal iliac artery. We have the two terminal branches. One of them is the internal pudendal artery and the second one is the inferior gluteal. So these arteries are the terminal branches from the internal iliac artery. Superior gluteal artery, it runs between the lumbosacral trunk and the S1, so the root of the S1 from the sacral plexus. So this is the parietal branches, it's a branch from the posterior division of the internal iliac artery. The second, it's a iliolumbar artery, and the third is the lateral sacral artery, but they are more than one.